Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm responding to a question that was asked on what steps they can take in order to get an internship or full-time offer at Big Four. If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe. So without further ado, let's get started. So step number one is to start early. Most companies will have developmental programs or leadership programs geared towards freshmen and sophomores. Even if it's a one-day event, it's great to have because not only will you learn more about the company, but you'll also be able to put it on your resume. Later, you can talk about that during interviews, and it will also give you a head start among your peers. You can also meet new people that work at the firm and ask them various questions that you may have. So getting into programs earlier will help you get an internship later on in the future. Step number two is to get to know the campus recruiters. Most Big Four companies have designated recruiters and send them to your campus depending on the size of the school. It's important to not only show up to the career fair but also show up to events that they are hosting throughout the year, and that way you will get to know the recruiter on multiple occasions. It's great when the recruiters can put a face to the name on the resume and recognize who you are. They are essentially the ones to pick out who can get an interview, and they are pretty much the first initial screeners of the interviewing process, other than the software that they may use to screen out individuals. Number three is to go to the career fair. Most of the time there will be a seasonal career fair where you can talk to a bunch of employers and get their idea of what it's like to work there. Most of the time, these Big Four companies will not just only bring the recruiters, but they will also bring people that work day-to-day in the actual companies. Most of the times they are associates, seniors, or managers that take time out of their day to go and help answer any questions that you may have. Definitely have some questions in mind when you do go into the career fair. You can also ask for their business card because most of them do bring their business card, and you can reach out to them after the career fair as well. Most of the companies do not take physical copies of your resume. A lot of the applications are online now. However, it doesn't hurt to bring copies of your resume in case they do ask for it. When you go to the career fair, what I used to do was I would talk to a lot of the smaller companies just to build up my courage to talk to a lot of the larger companies. That way I would be less nervous. So definitely keep that in mind, that it is nice to also talk to other companies other than the Big Four. Step number four is to apply early. You want to make sure that you have a head start and apply as soon as possible. That way your resume can be screened first. One thing that I like to do is I like to take the job description and tailor the job description based on my own experience, and that way when it does go through the system, the software can pick up the keywords that they are looking for. So most companies will ask you to apply directly to their website. Make sure that the resume that you use is up to date. It's also helpful to ask someone to revise your resume to make sure that it is the best quality out there. Quick tip is to make sure that your resume is saved in PDF instead of Word, because when you do upload your resume in Word format, the formatting could get messed up. Therefore, even though the content of your resume may look good, if the formatting gets messed up, you may lose your opportunity. So make sure that you save it into PDF before you upload it into their portal. Number five is to practice interviewing with someone else. So this interview can be with a friend or a family member. What I did was I asked someone that had already interned at Big Four, and she was a senior in college, and that was really helpful in getting an idea of what the interviewing process would be like. I also asked another friend who had a full-time offer at Big Four as well, and that was also very, very helpful. So if you know anyone that already has a job at Big Four, it's really great great if you can reach out to them and see if they can help interview you before you go into the actual interview. I also wanted to note that the Big Four does not ask you technical questions. So they're not asking you about the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, income statement, none of that. They're not really focused on accounting concepts, but what they do ask you are behavioral questions. So questions such as, tell me about yourself, why do you want to work here, and those type of questions. So please make sure that you practice those questions ahead of time. I will leave a link to the guide that I used in the description box, and it talks about a lot of the questions that they could potentially ask you. Before you go for an interview, definitely take a look at that and make sure that you practice the answers to some of those questions. Step number 6 is the actual interview. One of the tips within the interview is that you do not want to be late. That is something that no one really likes. Even if you are doing a virtual interview, make sure you have everything set up. If you have technical difficulties, whether it's your fault or not, it will lead to you having less time to speak with each person. So make sure you read all of the directions during a virtual interview. Another tip that I want to talk about within the interview is every person that you meet has a say in your interview. So even the associate who just started at the firm, don't make it seem like they're not important. Basically, try your best to respect everyone because everyone, trust me, has a say. They may not ask you who is the best candidate, but they might ask you who do you think doesn't really fit with the description of the job. I've helped out interview in the past, and a lot of the times HR does reach out to you to see what your opinions are on the candidates. That there are usually 1 to 2 rounds, and in these rounds you're being interviewed by more than one person. So I'll just give you a quick example. When I interviewed at Big Four, I was interviewed once on campus. This was before virtual interview started. And I interviewed with a partner, and then afterwards I went into the actual office and interviewed with 3 people. There are usually people that are in different areas of their career. So it's not just one person, they like you and you pass and you get an offer. You do have to go through multiple steps in order to get it. Have questions that are already prepared to ask them. These are questions that you can be genuinely curious about. One of the things that I like to do is ask a question that is based on the conversation that you already had. It gives them an idea that you are an active listener. It is super helpful when you have something on your resume to talk about, and that can make you stand out. So for instance, a lot of people ask me about 2 internships that I had because I was doing both internships in one summer. So having something unique on your resume, and when they ask you about it, you can tell them more in depth. Personally, if you have any experience in automation, anything tech related, or anything that is related to an accounting trend, that is something that will make you stand out because it will show you that you know where the accounting industry is going and that you will be on board with that. And the last step is to write a thank you note when you're done with the interview. I will leave an example of one that I personally wrote down in the description box. It's important because you want to make sure that you let them know that you're thankful for having them take time out of their day to interview. This was one of the tips that one of my friends, Derek, had mentioned. He would take their business card and right after the interview was over, write 3 interesting things that he learned about either them, the interviewer, or that he learned about the firm. Then he would use that to write a email, and in this email it would be very specific because everything was based on their conversation. I have overheard conversations of people that are interviewers that say if they don't send a thank you note that they take it as a negative things. For me, I didn't really care whether I got a thank you note, but for other people, they took it more seriously. So definitely keep that in mind. So that concludes this video. That was 7 steps that I took to get an internship and a full-time offer at Big Four. If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys later.